very sharp. So these are my top tips. Growing up in New Zealand, this was one of the most common fruit trees in many backyards alongside the feijoa, and that is the lemonade. It's pretty heavy. I wanted to share with you today my top producing citrus tree, and it's quite a unique one. Split it in half, and with just 2 ingredients you can make this delicious pink lemonade. So the lemonade is really unique. It looks like a lemon, but it's actually sweet. It is something you can eat fresh, just like an orange, but it has a lemon flavour. Because of how prolific these are, these would be a great one for an urban garden, for a pot, because you don't need to get a huge tree to have a lot of fruit. Like many amazing things, this originated from New Zealand and thought to be a hybrid seedling of a cross between a mandarin and a lemon. It's the first of my citrus to start ripening, so it's a really good one for an early season to extend your harvest. It produces a lot of fruit on a small tree, and I've already been harvesting a lot of these, so it is important to thin it out, because you can see the tree starts to get a little bit yellow on the leaves, and that's just because it's putting all its nutrients into all of this fruit. There are some good points and some bad points to this tree, so I'm going to share what I love about this tree, why it's one of my favourite things to grow in the garden, but also some things to look out for to decide whether it is going to be right for your garden as well. So these are my top tips for growing lemonade so you can get the most out of your harvest, and that is put it in a sunny location. They love full sun. They're a little bit more warm loving than other citrus, so they do really well in warmer climates like here in Perth, and you see them a lot more in the North Island or the top of New Zealand where it's a lot warmer. They are heavy feeders because they put a lot of fruit out, and they do this from a really young age. It's a good idea to pack them full of lots of compost and good nutrition in the soil, but make sure that it is free draining, because like most fruit trees, they don't like having wet feet. I've got mine raised up a little bit so that I could add good soil in, because my soil here is pure sand. And then I'm constantly adding more compost, more chop and drop, more nutrients back into the soil, because they do have really shallow feeder roots. So a lot of those nutrients are being absorbed really shallow, just on the top part of the soil. Now, one thing that is important to note is that these do have really strong big thorns on them, so that can put a lot of people off. They are a really spiky, thorny plant, something to consider when you choose a location for this. I have definitely had my fair share of spikes from this, and that's one of the reasons I do not chop and drop this one. It does have to get chopped up and composted or put through the mulcher to break up these thorns, because they are very sharp. And citrus can push more thorns when they're under stress, and because of our really hot, dry summers here, this tree is often under stress. Because of how prolific they are and how much fruit they produce, sort of naturally dwarfs the tree, and they grow a lot slower in terms of size, which can be really good in an urban garden where you want to fit in a lot more fruit trees. It also means that they can snap branches easily because they have a lot of clusters. I've already gone through and thinned out and picked quite a few of these off here so that they aren't getting as heavy, but they can easily snap branches with how much fruit they put on a younger, smaller tree. So you may want to thin them out. Another thing that does happen is some of the fruit can get damaged, especially here I get a lot of wind, and if the fruit rubs against some of those thorns, it stabs holes in them. So I'm always checking to see if any of the fruit are damaged and taking those off, so the tree isn't putting all that effort into something that is already going to be damaged and the bugs are going to get into it. They do have really thin skin, so they can be susceptible to fruit fly, so you may need to net or bag the fruit. The skin is easily peelable, so you can peel it like a mandarin. Or an orange. There we go, so you can easily just peel it out in the garden, have a garden snack, and then I always like to go through the centre, split it in half, and then you've got segments like you do an orange, and it does have some seeds in it. One thing to note, if you are growing citrus next to each other, they can have more seeds. Even ones that were seedless, if you plant them next to other citrus trees, they can then produce seeds. So I have plenty of fruit trees, so I'm not surprised that I have seeds in these, but they are delicious. I like to pick them when they've got a little bit of green still on them and a little bit of tartness. It's not too much, but when they are fully ripe, they can be quite sweet and a little bit watery. So we are about to get some rain, so I need to pick most of the ripe ones, like most ripe fruit, it's really important to pick as much as you can before the rain comes, because they get excess water and they'll split and then the bugs get in. So I'm going to harvest as much of these, and then we're going to go and make something really delicious. So once I've harvested a lot of these, I can then give the tree a prune, and we do have a bit of gall wasp on this, so I want to get them harvested and pruned before that is too late. Might need a bigger basket. This is already filling up. And I've barely done half the tree. Ow! That's a whole lot of fresh lemonade. So I just picked these off one tree. There's still plenty more, and I've been harvesting this for a while. It's pretty heavy. Plant a lemonade tree and get lemonade straight off the tree. Come with me to make pink lemonade straight from the garden with just 2 ingredients. So this is my blood orange. I've been harvesting these. There's only a few left, so let's pick some. And this other one looks about ripe as well. That one doesn't have much colour yet. So you can see it's starting to go a little bit red on the outside, which is the colour developing inside. The most important ingredient. First. And with just 2 ingredients, you can make this pink lemonade with no sugar and no colourings. So that's another added bonus of growing lemonades in the garden. Let me know in the comments if you've tried lemonade before or you've never heard of them. It's a really interesting one to grow in the garden.